What's going on, traders? In this video, we have to talk about semiconductors because something major is about to happen and I want you guys to be prepared for it. So I need you to lock in because it's about to get real, all right? So first thing first, we got to talk about SMH daily time frame. And right now you are looking at a symmetrical triangle and it looks like we're on the verge of possibly, keyword possibly breaking out of the symmetrical triangle. And so your key levels that you want to look out for here is 253. You break above 253, you're heading towards 255, which is your psych level. After 255, you're heading towards 261, 262, give or take, right here where these guys are. So you got these guys right here, rejection here, another rejection here. So that's where you're going to head towards next. After that, you're looking at a move towards 264, so right where this guy is. And then after that, you're looking at a gap fill all the way towards 270. Now, we talked about 270 in the past. On a weekly time frame, and I don't have the indicator up, but on a weekly time frame, you have a massive fair value gap in this area. Now, if you paid attention to my fair value gaps video where I went into detail on what they are and how important they are, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So we have to eventually liquidate this area. I don't know when it's going to happen. I can't tell you when it's going to happen, but at some point in time, we're going to want to liquidate this area and mitigate that fair value gap. So that is what I'm looking at for SMH. You want to see a move. We can see a move or potentially see a move all the way towards 270 where this gap fill is. So definitely pay attention to those levels. Pay attention to this pattern if you are a trader that believes in patterns. And if you don't, just simply pay attention to those levels that I mentioned. So SMH definitely looking crazy right now. And so next we got to talk about SOXX. So right now, SOXX, you can argue that this is a falling wedge. You can argue that this is a descending triangle. It doesn't necessarily matter to me. Right now, what matters to me is the fact that we are breaking out. Now, I don't want to get too optimistic. I don't want you to get too hyped because we broke out in the past, right? We broke out and we had a false breakout. Bear stepped in and broke us back down. So we can very much see that move happen again. So we don't want to get too excited here. But what we want to see is a break above 230 on this thing. Now, we're pretty far off from 230, but still, we want to be better safe than sorry. After 230, you are looking at a gap fill all the way towards about well, actually, the gap fill is at 230. So after 230 gap fill, you want it gets really tight, right? You're looking at a move towards 234, 235 range. After that, you're looking at 237, and then from there, you're looking at 242. So it gets very tight as you move further to the upside. And so even here, I mean, you have a gap fill all the way at 242, and the highest we can look at is about 257, 258, give or take, where you have another gap fill here. Again, this area is very illiquid, guys. Okay, we talked about this. Very illiquid area. All right, so we have to have some type of liquidity grab in this area sometime in the future. Again, I don't know when this is going to happen, but it's definitely possible considering that we are breaking out all over again. But again, we don't want to jump the gun. We want to see some type of confirmation because we can easily have a false breakout here. So something to pay attention to when we're talking about SOXX. And so we look at SOXL, another semiconductor ETF. And as you guys can see, we are breaking out of this rising channel. And once again, we don't want to get optimistic because this has happened before. We broke out, we had a false breakout, bear stepped in, and we broke back in, and now we're doing it all over again. So we don't want to get too optimistic, right? So we want to see a break above 33. We break above 33, we're easily heading towards 35 psych level. After that, you're looking at a move as high as about between 38, 39, give or take, all the way at the top of this channel. So that's what I'm looking at for SOXL. And so next we gotta talk about Nvidia, right? And Nvidia is looking really good. Okay, really good. All right, so this is looking pretty crazy across the board. I will say that much. And so right now we're looking at the daily time frame on Nvidia, and so far we are breaking out of this. We can call it. I wouldn't call it a bull flag. I would just say it's a falling channel. But call it what you want. Regardless, we're breaking out of here now. I want to see more convincing bullish candles here, because these are just dojis, so it just shows that bulls are not ready or not decisive yet. So we want to see some type of bullish momentum come out of this. But as long as we hold above the level of 138, I think Nvidia has the potential to go higher. After 138, you want to see a break above 142. I would say 142.5, and then after that, you're looking at a move towards 145 cycle level. Now, the highest I think we can go if we zoom out on a daily time frame, as you guys can see, we are within a rising wedge. And so the highest I think we can go is about 157, between 157, 160, give or take. I think that's potentially the highest we can go when we're talking about Nvidia. Now, if we want to be humble, if we want to, be conservative, then we can look at a move towards at least 147 minimum, 147, 149, give or take at minimum. So that is what I'm looking at when we're talking about Nvidia. Once again, as long as 138 holds, I think we're pretty good when it comes to upside on Nvidia. So next question is, okay, what about the options chain? Now, I will say this much. Um, there's not anything crazy coming into the options chain. So that is a good sign. That's a good sign that we may have the opportunity to jump into some trades. I definitely plan on jumping into some trades with our Discord tomorrow, possibly if Nvidia, stays somewhat stays in the area that is it in. And right now, I mean, at most we have 145 calls expiring for next week, but we don't have anything too crazy when it comes to calls. Now, these 138 puts, they have a higher bid than ask. And what do I tell you guys? Anytime the bid is higher than the ask, that simply means that whales are selling. But right now, these 140 calls, the ask is higher than the bid. You have an 18.8 million premium on these calls. 141 calls, you have a 7.24 million premium, and you have a higher ask than bid. So definitely something to pay attention to. So again, we don't have anything too crazy. We do have 145 calls. The ask is higher than the bid on these. The premium is pretty high on these. So, hopefully Nvidia doesn't like gap up tomorrow all the way to 145. I highly doubt that's going to happen, but it's very much possible if Nvidia gets some type of, crazy news overnight or something. So that leads me to my next thing here. I don't know what's going to cause this move because we don't have any like key events coming up until like late next week, which is I believe unemployment claims. So in regards to news, I can only imagine that Nvidia gets like its own personal news, maybe about its chips or something like that, where it causes some massive chain reaction across the market. So I would definitely pay attention to some type of news, maybe pay attention to Nvidia news or semiconductor news in general for this possible breakout. Or maybe market makers don't won't care and we just break out no matter what. Okay, maybe that's on the table. So definitely pay attention to this. Now, if we're talking about a breakout on semiconductors, what does that mean for the overall market? Are we looking at a Santa rally here? And so we look at the SPY, and this is why I keep telling you guys don't get too optimistic, don't get too hyped or anything like that, because we can easily get rug pulled here. Okay. And so this level right here, I keep telling you guys about this area right here between 600 and 604. You still want to be cautious. I mean, look at this on the daily time frame on the SPY. Let's zoom in here. You see a whole bunch of turbulence here. You see a lot of bears in this area. I mean, the bearish candles outweigh the bullish candles by a landslide. They're much bigger here. So bears are very much deep in this area. Again, we don't have any key news coming up. So I imagine maybe Jerome Powell comes out of nowhere and says something, or maybe again, like Nvidia gets its own personal news and causes some chain reaction across the market. But again, we're at a very dangerous area here. And so I would not be looking to, and this is just me personally, you do what you want. I would not be looking to get calls in this area here when it comes to the SPY. Okay. Very dangerous to do so. But again, do what you want. So your key levels here that you want to see is a break above 602. We had a hard time breaking above that today if you were paying attention. 602 and then 604. You break above 604, I think we can definitely start talking about previous highs at around 608. And then if we break above 608.6, then we're definitely going to head towards 610, our psych level. And highest I'll be looking at for the short term is about 614 on the spot. So definitely something to pay attention to. Now, if we start rejecting from here, and I mean like really rejecting from here, then we can be looking at some type of head and shoulders pattern here. So you will have a shoulder here, right? You will have a shoulder here, your head here, and if you see some type of rejection here, then you're looking at another shoulder here, and then that's definitely going to lead to some type of reaction where we see a massive breakdown across the market, and then your neckline will be at around the 579, 580 range, and then from that point, we're definitely going to fill this gap that we tried to fill in the past at 576. And so don't get me wrong, I still think we're going to head towards 576. It's just a matter of when this move is going to happen. Lowest I'm looking at for the SPY is about 570. We'll talk about that another time. But first target, if we're talking about downside, is 576. So I still stand by what I say. Be careful in this area. You want to see the SPY hold 598. We talked about this in the past. If SPY gives up 598 again, we're going to do the same thing all over again when Jerome Powell spoke. Okay. Again, so if we have like some news coming up, some like major news, maybe Jerome Powell speaks or whatever, and we break below 598, all right, we're going to do the same thing. Okay, I think we're going to do the same thing. All right, don't put faith in that or anything, but it will get really ugly all over again. Okay, so you definitely want to pay attention to 598. All right, so those are your levels in regards to the SPY. And so we talk about the triple Qs here. All right, so the triple Qs is breaking below 529 after hours. Now, you take that with a grain of salt. It is after hours. This can easily change by tomorrow morning. We'll see. But right now, we want to see the triple Qs hold 529. If it doesn't hold 529, then you're looking at a move towards 527. And after that, you're looking at a move towards 525. Okay, so you definitely want the triple Qs to hold here. Now, we zoom out. As you guys can see, we're breaking above this rising channel again. And so what's important to note here is that we've done this in the past, right? We've broken above this rising channel and then look what happened. We rolled back in. And so it looks like we're kind of repeating history here. So I would not marry the idea of a Santa rally just yet. You guys know that I don't anticipate one, but I don't necessarily care if we do get one. If we get one, that's fine. That's great. Okay, if semiconductors take off the way that I was talking about and the way that I think they could, then a Santa rally is definitely on the table. So I'm not completely against the Santa rally. I want to make that clear. If it happens, it happens. That's great. We'll just, adjust and trade the Santa rally. It is what it is. All right. But again, it's important to note what's happened in the past on the triple Qs. We've done this before. We broke out, right? And then we rolled over. And so we can very well do the same thing here where we break out and roll over. All right. So we don't want to jump the gun just yet. So you want to see 529 get reclaimed. After 529, you want to see a move towards 532, 533. And then after that, highest we're looking at is previous highs at around 538, 539. And if we're talking about new highs, I would say we can go as high as about 550s. But we'll talk about that in the future if we start getting close to that target. But that is something to look out for in regards to the triple Qs. Another reason why we don't want to get too optimistic is because of the VIX. And so something interesting happened in our Discord today where our AI bot alerted that whales are jumping into VIX 28 strike calls for February 19th, 2025. Right. And so again, we don't want to jump the gun. We don't want to get too happy when it comes to the VIX. I mean, not to the VIX, not the VIX, but the overall market possibly seeing some type of Santa rally. All right. Now, these could very well just play out in the future, like later on down the line. They don't have to play out right away, but I just want you guys to keep this play in the back of your mind. And it's important to note as well that the AI bot doesn't just randomly alert things. It alerts what the whales are doing, what institutions are doing. It goes off the options chain. So I want you guys to keep that in mind as well. These are not like random alerts that the bot just guesses off, maybe a resistance level breaking or something like that. These are actual calls, actual alerts from actual whales and institutions and what they're doing. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. If you want access to this type of information, Discord link is in the description below. And so I wanted to check out this play and make sure that whales are actually trading it, right? And so I go to Quant data, and link will be in the description below if you're interested in Quant data and the information it provides. And I want to see if exchanges were actually trading these contracts. And so we look at the VIX, we look up the VIX, and we look at the expiration, we put in the strike price, and so on and so forth. Give it a moment. It's a lot of information to load up here. And so we click on this, right? So we already have the contract in that we're looking for. And so we click on this spike right here. You guys see that there was a massive spike right here. And so far, yeah, there is a exchange, and there's only one institution so far that's actually trading this, and they are at the ask. And that simply means that anytime something is at the ask or above the ask, that means that whales or institutions are actually buying those contracts. And so far, we only have one exchange. Now, me personally, I would like to see multiple exchanges buying into a contract, because when one exchange does it, to me it just means like they're just having a starter position, right? That's what it means to me, at least. All right, it's not like written in stone that that is the case. Man, try saying that fast 5 times. But I don't think that's going to be. I don't think this is going to be something that plays out right away. Obviously, I think this is going to take some time, especially when we're talking about one institution playing this. So this could just simply be a starter position. I would definitely pay attention to this. But you have 28 calls for February 19th, 2025. And we talked about the VIX in our last video, right? And I told you guys that there is a very illiquid area all the way towards 24. Okay, so if we don't hit 28, I definitely think we're going to hit 24 on the VIX. And so we got to talk about the VIX here. So I told you guys we may see some type of, bounce or rejection from this gap fill. Let's go to the 4 hour time. I think it's much clearer on the 4 hour time frame here. So yeah, I told you guys that we may see some type of rejection from this gap fill, and we didn't quite get there at around 14, but we did see a bounce, and we saw some type of retest of that fair value gap that I talked about in the last video at around 16. And so this very well could mean that the VIX can head lower and fill this gap all the way towards 13.8, 13.6, give or take. And then from there, we'll have to see what happens. Again, What do I tell you guys about gaps? They have very strong support and resistance, right? So if we break below this gap field, then we can start heading down even further towards the 13 strike where there is another gap field. Now, if we're talking about a Santa rally and talking about new highs, I would imagine, me personally, I would imagine that the VIX is going to want to head towards 11.69. Now, why 11.69? If you're new to this channel, you guys see it. We zoom out. And we've respected this level multiple times on the VIX. So it's always funny when people say you can't plot the VIX. And I mean, VIX respects levels, man. I mean, you just got to find them. You just got to know where to look. All right. So you bounced here, you bounced here, you bounced here, you bounced here. And then you had this massive bullish wick right here off the VIX. So definitely something to pay attention to. I imagine if we're going to see a Santa rally, that is where we're going to want to go. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to happen. If we're talking about previous highs, then I think we're just simply, gap fill right here at around 13 and possibly bounce from there. Now, again, if you're new to this channel, at some point in time, even if the VIX doesn't head towards 28, which I think is very much possible, but if we're not talking about a move towards 28, at minimum, we're looking at a move towards 24. Why are we looking at a move towards 24? Because this area right here is very, very illiquid, guys. So at some point in time, we're going to see some type of liquidity grab all the way towards the 24 range. All right, and I showed you guys in the last video, feel free to check it out, where there's not one, not two, but three fair value gaps to the upside that need to be mitigated on the VIX. So again, at some point in time, we may see a massive market drop, and then the VIX pretty much, liquidity grabs all the way at minimum 24. Now, if we're talking about a move towards 28, I gave you guys a price target as high as 35, which I still think is on the table. If we're talking about some type of, massive drop across the market, maybe a correction, crash, whatever you want to call it. All right, so that's what I'm looking at for the VIX. And so that's pretty much all I have for this video. Hopefully you guys got something out of it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. If you agree, let me know. If you disagree, let me know. Just keep it respectful as always. Discord link will be in the description below if you want to see if we're going to trade these semiconductors and this possible breakout that's on the table. And other than that, that's all I have. Until the next video, traders, you have a good one.